Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 271. Now, if you are listening on the day of release, like I know many of you do, it is the 7th of November here. And in England, in the UK, is definitely getting colder, darker, wetter. We are into the winter now. Mr. Peter Lance is down in Bath in Somerset. He's smiling and shaking his head. Are you all right, Pete?
It's just you've started setting the scene of the podcast every time you introduce it. It's getting colder and darker. The weather's getting rubbish.
Well, no, it's good though.
You
It's
know,
good. It's good. Yeah, we'll talk
honestly.
about that. How you can get. Well, we talked about it with Theo last week, didn't we? How you can get over your SAD, your seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it is what it is, isn't it? It
it
happens
is
every
what it
year.
is. It is what it is. It is what it is. And we are joined by a very special guest today, Mel Anderson. How are you doing, Mel?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Well, Mel is she's a personal trainer, a kettlebell coach, a Meno strength coach, which we really want to talk about today. Level 4 nutrition coach as well. And I've known Mel, I was thinking about this. It's over a decade, probably, isn't it, Mel?
Mm,
Do you think?
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was around about 2015, 16 or something that I
Yeah. So around
got in
that kind
touch
of
with you, something like that.
10-year mark. Yeah. So and Mel is a kind of a fantastic trainer, a fantastic kind of advocate for women's health, for women's strength, for women's training, especially, which we're going to talk probably quite a lot about today, around the kind of, menopause age and above, and just general kind of empowerment for women within this kind of space, but also very, very accessible, very, very inclusive, very, very, kind of meeting people where they're at and just being very realistic with training for what I would say kind of the general population and the kind of people that we can kind of help kind of get moving, from a fairly kind of low base initially and then help to kind of progress. So Mel, for yourself, I suppose, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of your background, really? Like where
Mm.
your kind of life, how you came to training or exercise, kind of what led you to this career path? Because I think initially you were maybe working in the city, you were kind of at a very different
I
type
was in banking.
of banking. Yeah. So yeah, kind of just start where you want to start, and then we'll kind of
Yeah.
just ask questions as we go, if that's okay.
Yeah, so gosh, banking. I got into banking quite by accident. It was just, I'd been traveling around the world and got into a job and then stayed there for 10 years. So that's not really, I wouldn't have called it like a career, but I got into fitness myself through suffering really badly from postnatal depression. And I'd never been a mover or an exerciser. I was the kind of person that went to a gym, jumped on a treadmill and walked for about 20 minutes and thought, why am I not losing weight? I'm in the gym kind of thing, absolutely knew nothing about fitness whatsoever, hated it, hated PE. But going through postnatal depression, I'm what I call a doozer. So rather than letting that take me, I needed to do something about it. And I read loads of books, did loads of research, and discovered that exercise is one of the greatest things to do. So I ran and ran and ran. And I can honestly say it's completely saved me. Running and getting into movement completely saved me from a horrible, horrible, dark place. So I then, having like fell in love with that and fell in love with the feelings that I got from it, thought I need to get everyone to do this. I need all women that have got young children to do this, and went out in my local area, trained up as a Run England running sort of fitness instructor, and started up a group in my local area with a friend of mine, which grew to over 400 women over a span of like 2 or 3 years. We taught over 400 women to get from zero to run 5K. And I guess that is really where my whole ethos started, like you were just saying, is what we discovered were there were running clubs, but they're just too frightening for people. Your everyday person, which is who I consider myself to be, the everyday person, the mum that's going down, dropping her kids off, doing what she can, going back, picking them up, taking them to clubs, whatever. that have never done exercise. It was too inaccessible. So we created this space in between nothing and the fast, crazy runners. We created this space and they came in their hundreds, and it was
And I
an
suppose
amazing.
this was before Park Run, wasn't it? This was before.
Yeah, Park Run started up in Chelmsford about a year after we'd started our run club. And
Yes,
we
it's
used to
before
take
that,
people.
yeah,
It was, yeah. And it was, oh, it was an amazing, just an amazing, amazing experience. We took on 9 run leaders. We paid for 9 women to help us because the pack got so big. We needed to spread run leaders through the pack. We won an award in our first year. It was amazing. It was an amazing time. And then from that, I realised that all these girls that were running were getting all these injuries, and I started to go, okay, what's going on here? Oh, right, we need to strength train. We need to make these bodies that we want to run with for our mental health. We need to make them stronger. And that's when I decided to go and do a personal training qualification. And kind of left the running club in the hands of somebody else, and I believe they're still doing it now. You know, like,
this sounds familiar, Pete, to you a bit with your walk bath, doesn't
It
it? I was
sounds
going to
exactly the
say.
same, yeah. Like we've got a demographic of, because most walking groups are for people who are retired and they go on a Tuesday at like 10 o'clock, like
yeah,
Ramblers and all that. And
yeah,
I like, I don't know about the Ramblers and stuff, but it's got this kind of stigma about it that it's old far to go for a walk, isn't it? And people are like, why would I want to do that when I'm in my 40s, 50s or whatever? So what we've got is a bunch of people who want to go at 9 o'clock on a Saturday because they're at work at the other times, and there's hundreds of them, it turns out. So it's exactly the same as your thing. And I think, and I'm guilty of this, I think we all probably are, you go online, you're like, lift weights, look, here's me lifting weights and all that sort of stuff. And people are like, that's really scary. I don't want to do that.
yeah.
And it's the same with running. It's like, yeah, come out and come in. We only do 5K. People are like, I can't run at the end of the street.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we developed this thing, and I think this was before Couch to 5K, or before I knew about it anyway. We developed this 12-week program. And in the first week, we would run for 30 seconds and walk for 2 minutes. And people would walk away from it going, I did the first week. I feel amazing. And they would feel such a sense of achievement. So we got to the point after about, I would say, after about sort of 2 or 3 cycles, we used to do a 12-week cycle. After about 2 or 3 cycles, we suddenly realized, right, the huge amount of people drop out. What's going on? And we started to say to people, if you want to go out on your own, just do what we've taught you this week, right? So it's 30 seconds, 2 minutes. Next week, 1 minute, 1 minute walk, then 2 minutes run, 1 minute. Just do that. If you go, woohoo, this feels amazing, and I'm going to go out and run for 20 minutes, you'll go, oh my God. Either your body will say, that was hideous and I'm broken now, or your mind will go, that was so hard, I don't want to do it again. So we used to say, stick to, even if you feel like you can do more, stay with it. Finish like you've got more in the tank. And then it started to work. We started to retain more people, and our aim was to get people to 5K, but then we had to sort of branch off and go a little bit of a more advanced runners and start taking people for 10Ks, 15Ks, half marathons. It was amazing. It was so amazing. And I've carried that model and that ethos through everything I've done ever since then. Is like, take somebody from nothing, show them one little thing, the lowest hanging fruit that will help them do a little bit of movement, and then get them going, oh man, that was amazing. What's next? What's next? What's next?
Did you find as well? That's brilliant, because like basically that is how to train, isn't it? You start where you're at, and you leave a bit in the tank, and you just keep going until you get better. Same strength, like endurance, anything. But did you find as well, because obviously what's great, what I think is brilliant there is you've just described some people in the group might have felt like they're getting left behind. So you're like, right, well, go away and do it on your own. What we've taught you, though. So they still get the benefit of it. But did you also have people who there might be someone who's ahead of them, but only just for the 30 seconds or whatever. So they're like, right, my goal is to get, and not that they want to be better than that person, but they're like, you're my goal now. So you end up like working with each other, don't you? In those sorts of situations. Yeah,
absolutely. When there was a lot of women, there used to be pods, and someone would go, I want to get up to that pod. I want to get up to that pod. But what the one thing that I used to find the most beautiful thing ever was when there was somebody at the back and they would go, oh, I'm at the back, I'm at the back. And I used to say to them, you're at the back of a group of women running.
Mm,
Everyone else is at home watching Coronation Street.
mm,
There's
So
a, there's a
well done.
guy, there's a guy who I train who's in his 60s,
Mm.
and he's gutted because he's only in the top. He's in the 62nd percentile of parkrun or something for his age. And I'm like, you're comparing yourself to people who do parkrun every week.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
I
you know,
say this to people all the time. When you're in a class or a group or a gym like yours, James, or, you know, whatever, you know, any environment where people are coming and doing something, you think that that's everything. You forget that. So like I have women, we ban the word only in my classes. You're not allowed to say only. I only pressed an 8 kilo today. And I'm like, honestly, like ask your friends your age what they think an 8 kilo bell feels like. Please go and ask them. We don't say only. No one says only. And especially, as you know, we'll talk about this loads as well. When women are in midlife, menopause, and these like roller coasters of hormones and this kind of thing, you can come one week and lift a 16 kilo bell, 20 kilo bell, and then the next week go, I can't even pick up the 8 kilo. Like I'm exhausted. And then next week you're back, woo, again. So whatever you've got, strong is what strong feels like today. That's our little you know, our motto. And yeah,
mm.
so
So when you decided then, when you know, like you say, you've done this, you built up this running group to hundreds of people, really successful, but then you
mm,
started to notice that people were picking up little injuries and things. And
mm,
like you say, because all they were doing was running, they needed to supplement the running with some strength training and things. And then you
yeah,
went away and you became qualified as a trainer. So then
mm,
you could do the strength. And then
mm,
so did you, so what happened? What was the next progression from there? Was it that you said, I think that you left the running group for someone else to kind of run, and
yeah,
then did you move more into the strength training? That's where you put
yeah.
more of your focus then, was it?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
did the personal training certificate. I started off like probably a lot of people did like circuit classes in the local church and things like that. You know, I used to get my kids when they were really young to like carry all the stuff in. My daughter, when she was, you know, I got like 10 or 11, used to take the register for people
Mm,
and they used to get on the floor and demonstrate the exercises for me. You know, that's I used to do that, like where most of us started
mm,
really.
mm,
Used to take people out on the green near my local, you know, my local green around the back of my house and do personal training there. And then I did a little bit because I knew the people from Riverside near us,
mm,
because we'd done some running collaborations with them. We'd started up a little run club for their members as well. So I knew then. So then I went into their gym for a little while to sort of go, oh, you know, I need to learn a bit more. I need to feel a bit more confident with what I'm doing. So I feel like I need to be in somewhere. Went to another one of these sort of, you know, 24-hour gyms and did a few bits and bobs there and then contacted you, James. And I was like,
mm,
you know, I needed to get in. I needed to, I love learning. I love like learning from people, not just staying where I am. And that's when I contacted you and
mm,
said,
mm,
you know, this is what I can do. Can I come and like nose around in your gym and do some
mm,
stuff? And
mm.
then, yeah.
I thought you were
But
going to
you
say
were, so this is, yeah,
contacted
sorry, go on,
James and
Pete.
said, James, do you know anyone who I can learn from?
Yeah.
But no, what's great though, I think, like you say, I love the ethos of because there's so much, and this is why I mentioned your Instagram, which is, I'll give it a shout now, and then we'll give it a shout at the end. But it's at my.bodyfits on Instagram, yeah, and we'll talk about kind of why. Maybe a bit
Yeah.
later, we'll talk about why you know why you use that and how that came
Yeah.
about. But that's why I kind of mentioned the real kind of accessibility and the real kind of, you know, like you say, starting from ground zero with people and
Mm,
really kind of trying to tap into that market of, like I say it all the time, I've said it for years and years, there's only about kind of like maybe 13% of the population who, you know, train and go to a
mm,
gym or strength train,
yeah.
and most people are chasing that same 13%, you know, like they're just trying to get that 13%. When you've got Pete, what's the maths? 87, is it? 87% of
Yeah.
people who are
Well
not
done.
doing anything, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really, you're trying from my point of view, you're looking at that 87%. You know, well, there's
100%.
87% of people who are doing nothing at the moment, and they
100%.
they are arguably the people that need the most help and that you can impact the most positively. So
and the scariest thing is they're being influenced by people that are lifting super heavy weights online, flashing off their their like ripped bodies, saying things like, which I think I'm really torn with this. I think it's a great thing on one hand, but on the other hand, it's not. When people say this is, like women say, this is 60. I would love them to say, this is me at 60. I would love them to add those two words in there.
Or this can be 60
This
or
can
whatever.
be, yes,
Like, yeah.
yes. Make it like a possibility, because often if you're, and I work with so many people that are completely new to fitness. You know, it's the first time they've done anything. It is so scary. And when they're looking at that, like I say, it is great to show the potential. But I would love for the narrative to be just a little bit like, this is what you can do.
It's funny because I think about this a lot, and I talk to my guys about it a lot, and I think, because when you go to the doctors and they'll tell you there's a certain, like, you're here or whatever, or wherever you are is like, that's it. And you're like, yeah, but you're comparing me to my average age of the average population, right? And I'm above average, right? For my age, I just am. And that's not being like arrogant or anything. I just am, right? Because I've done work. But what I want is for that average to change. So when you say this is 60 or this is 50 or whatever, it's closer to it. You know what I mean?
Closer to it, yes.
And but you don't get that by training the people who already know what they're doing. You get that by training
exactly. To be quite honest with you, of all the people that I've trained, when there is somebody that's really strong and really fit, I find it, not quite as
rewarding.
Yeah.
When you've got somebody that did nothing and then you get them to do their first, like, what they feel like was such a big thing, such a big lift, such a big thing for them to achieve. And you just go, oh my God, that makes me feel amazing that I was part of that. Rather than someone going from there to there, I want to take someone who's here and show them that, look, let's have a little peek that's the potential, but get that out of your mind for now, because it could be scary. Let's just take one little step forward. What's that first step?
The funny thing with that as well is because people think their competition, or like trainers will think their competition is other trainers, but they're not. The competition is food companies and people's friends and family, and who want to keep them where they are because it's scary for them to become like the actual competition isn't what you think it is it? It's influence from lots of other places.
Interesting you say that. I was chatting to one of my ladies yesterday. She's in her 60s and she's been doing some weights now for probably 4 or 5 months, feeling fantastic, really enjoying it, really seeing the benefits of it. And a friend of hers was saying, why are you doing that? Why are you doing it? With a tone of like, God, what, And she said her and her friends who both do weights are kind of gently trying to say, it's really good it's really important. It's like, it's not for fun. It's like really important now. They're trying to get her to change her mind. And actually, you saying about that 13%, I was just having that conversation. I said, you forget that there is such a small percentage of the population that are in this mindset. And it's, so
we talk about it a lot on here, that we are in like an echo chamber. Like every week we do this podcast and we're talking to people from all over the world about this kind of stuff. And we're all three of us on the podcast now work within this kind of sector, if you like. So you do kind of forget that the vast majority of the population don't do any exercise. They don't really walk very much. They don't probably ever really consciously think about what they eat or how they sleep or how many steps they do, or they just kind of coast through life, so but that's why I think the grassroots stuff, like Pete's walking, like the run group that you started, like the way you train people now, that's so important to try and bring people in, because until people take, and again, there's a lot around personal responsibility and people can be a bit kind of smug about it and all the rest of it, but it really is people kind of almost like having that kind of an enlightenment moment and deciding, actually, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is. I'm going to do something that's going to be better for my health. So I want to move. So in terms of the strength training, you were kind of working through that. Now, I really want to talk about this, like men, like I suppose specifically, kind of what's made you kind of maybe move down the more the kind of menopause route and do the
Mm,
Meno strength. I mean, you can explain to us what the kind of the Meno strength coach is,
mm.
and kind of moving. Yeah, what kind of, I mean, it sounds like probably the group that you were already training from the running and then going into strength was more kind of women of a certain kind of demographic,
Mm.
but kind of what made you specifically target that and decide that that was the way you wanted to go?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was exactly the same as the running. I think this is my MO. You know, I go through something, see the benefits of learning about it and go, I need to tell everybody that's going through this. And my whole menopause journey started when I was quite young for menopause. It was in like my early 40s, which, you know, and nobody, I'm 53 now. So we're talking like 10 years ago. And if you think back to 10 years ago, there wasn't this huge conversation that there
Mm.
is now. And I was going through it unknowingly. And you know that thing that I tell you about with where you one day you come and you can lift, and then the next day you come and you just can't pick the weights up. I mean, that happened to me. It felt like overnight, and it was scary because exercise was for my mental health. It was like it's my, you know, it's my go-to thing. If I can't move, if I can't challenge myself, I start to feel like I'm going to dip. You know, I have this fear because that when I had that sort of thing when I before I started running, that was so scary and so frightening. And I felt like such a confident and strong person before that, and it broke me so much. So then I had this almost like I've got to keep moving. I've just got to keep moving. And if I can't move, I get incredibly scared of that kind of thing happening again, right? So then this started happening, and I was like, oh my God, this is just, I can't let this happen again.
So just to clarify this, so this almost when you started going to this kind of perimenopause stage, it was
Mm,
reminding you of when you had your like postnatal sort of depression,
mm,
that kind of thing. It was bringing back
yes.
some of those memories and
Bringing back
those
some of those.
symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Bringing back some of that, like the anxiety, the low mood. And then I didn't feel able to combat it with movement because I had no energy. I had nothing, you know? So it was interesting when I was going through it all. A girl, as somebody handed me a book and said, "Have a little read of this." And it was, I can't remember whose book it was now, but it was about hormones. And it was in there that for the first time ever, I saw the word perimenopause. And I actually thought, how rude. I'm in my early 40s. How dare she? I went round to Jamie and said, how bloody rude. This woman's just given me this, saying that, you know, potentially she's suggesting that I'm perimenopausal. And then I looked
It's
into
akin to
it.
giving you the saga catalogue.
That's it, yeah, that's it. I really did feel like, oh my goodness, this is, you know, what, you know, how rude. Read it and started going, but do you know what? This is what's going on. And I went to the doctors. It took me a couple of years to go, but when I was 45, they said, yeah, you're, you know, it's quite early, but you're in it. That's what's
Hmm.
happening to you, sort of thing.
And how do they assess that? Is that through like a blood test or something where
So
they?
most of the time, if you get a decent doctor, it's by symptoms, right?
Hmm.
If you've got like hot flushes, if you've got like irregular cycle, you know, they'll kind of diagnose you. Diagnose, it's not a condition, is it? But you know, they'll say, yeah, that's it, based on that. Way back then, doctors were insisting on a blood test, but there's a blood test because the hormones are so erratic, they're not actually very reliable. So, but we are getting better. Doctors are getting better. So it should be on symptoms.
Hmm.
My doctors were really good because they recognized that despite the fact that I was in my early 40s, yes, this definitely was what was happening. And then they said to me, you know, if you want to try HRT, and at the time I was like, you know, no, definitely not. I'm going to exercise and nutrition my way out of it. I'm going to cure it with
Hmm.
exercise and nutrition, which was just, you know, yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, we spoke to Helen Hall about this,
Mm,
and she had something similar. She went how old is she now? 51, 52 or something. This was like 3 years ago or something like that. She said she went to the doctors with a low mood and they tried to put her on antidepressants. So
yeah,
it wasn't 10 years ago. This was like a few years ago. And
yeah.
she was like, I'm not depressed, but she did leave the house. She said in the episode, she did leave the house one day and think, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going back home. And she was like, that scared her.
It's
So
really scary. Yeah.
she did HRT, but then she came off it because she was like, well, I feel all right now, so I'll come off it and I'll manage it through diet and lifestyle. And she did. She said for a year or so, or 2 years, for quite a while. Then she started to dip again. She was like, I'll have to go back on it. And she recognized that within herself, like you can try and diet and exercise your way out of it, but you know, if it's good, some women apparently don't even realize they've gone through it. I don't know if that's
Well,
true.
this is what I was going to say. Like everything in life, we're all different, right?
Yeah.
We're all different. And for anybody to say that you should or you shouldn't do anything is, you know, it's so irrelevant because we're so different, right? My sister is absolutely fine sailing through it, whereas me fell off a cliff, you know? So my GP gave me, you know, like what they do, they give you patches because it's, you know, when I fell off a cliff, I had to, by the way, I had to end up going, I need to go on HRT, I've got to give it a go. Cut a long story short, I had to end up going privately because when that wasn't the right combination for me, they didn't know where to go with it. So actually, my GP was good in terms of like, oh yeah, this is this. Come back and see us if you want to try it. Try this. Oh, we're stumped now. And then they started saying to me, you know, probably depression again. Remember, and at the time, I had hit an all-time low again and couldn't advocate for myself. And they were saying, remember, you know, remember your history. Remember, you know, you've had a breakdown, you've had severe depression before. It's probably that. And I was so broken, I wasn't able to voice and say, it's not that. I know what that feels like. But I sort of came off the phone and then Jamie just said, go private, you know, we can manage, go private. And then, you know, I found out through going private that what I was on was actually making me worse because it was synthetic progesterone and I'm slightly progesterone intolerant. So
it sounds like, because I mean, I don't know this at all, but when you went through obviously like the postnatal kind of depression, that's obviously your body's gone through like a massive like hormonal shift and a massive, you know, being pregnant and then having a baby and all that stuff. And then obviously going into the perimenopause, your body's going through this hormonal kind of shift again. So it's not like it's not like a kind of if there's not such a thing as a normal depression, but you know what I mean? It's kind of come at 2 points in your life where your body's gone through like massive changes, hasn't it? You know?
Absolutely, absolutely,
okay.
And progesterone being one of the main ones that caused it, because when I went to see this private doctor, she said you're slightly progesterone intolerant, which is why you would have had such bad postnatal depression because of the flood of progesterone in your body. Your body can't take those chemicals, and then you know you can have like estrogen dominance or progesterone dominance when you're going through perimenopause. So clearly I must have been in a state of quite high progesterone, then whacking on some synthetic progesterone on a blooming patch on my backside, and it was sending me off the rails again. So
this is brilliant because I didn't know this. So we've obviously spoken to a few people about menopause on this, but nobody's mentioned this, and I think that's great. And what you said about, I know what, when the doctor said you've been through this before, you said no, I know what that feels like, and this isn't it.
Yes.
And this is weird, but it's made me think of that Black Mirror. Is it the Black Museum, the Black Mirror episode, where there's like 3 different stories in it, but at the start, it's a doctor who can plug himself into someone. So when they come in, he knows what they feel. So he knows what it is. Because patients try and describe a symptom, right? And it's like, you know, you're not a doctor, so how the hell do you know? But it's great to listen to something like this and research it a bit so you get better at describing your symptoms to a doctor of like, this is how it feels. Not this is what I think I've got. That's horrible. That's a rabbit hole.
And that puts them on the back foot as well. That puts them on a bit of a defensive one. And you coming in here and telling me I'm a GP, I've studied for so many, you know, it's like you shouldn't really go in and say, I think I've got this. You know, you should go in and say, you know.
But if you could better describe how you feel, they'll get a better idea of what it is, you know. But then also, I mean, menopause is probably a bad example because like you'll have female doctors who've gone through it, but you'll have female doctors who haven't gone through it yet, and you'll be describing your symptoms, and they'll be like, I've heard this before, but they don't know what it feels like because they haven't had it yet. So I get that it's really hard. It's a difficult thing. I mean, any condition is a difficult thing to manage that way, isn't it? If
Yeah.
someone doesn't know what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that for me personally, any sort of, any sort of big shift of hormones, like you just said, any big shift of hormones has a massive impact on my mental health, and in the past, my antidote to that is to increase my dopamine somehow, right? To increase my endorphins, increase my serotonin, get out there, run, feel that feeling, challenge my body. And then when you get to the point where you're too anxious to walk out the door, you're physically exhausted. I mean, like exhaustion like you've never known before. Like when you first got your baby and you just don't sleep, it's like that, but without the baby. It's insane, not being able to sleep, waking up, and and then you've got this whole pressure of you've got to eat well, you've got to do this, but all you want to do is eat just like carbs and sugar because you're so blooming exhausted, and then you eat that and go, oh my god, what am I doing to myself? And it's just this whole just cauldron of
I think you're describing not only the menopause there, but a lot of people's lives in general. Like who work, who are like, got 3 jobs and kids everywhere and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of people in the work, like of your 87% who haven't got a gym membership because they haven't got the time to do it.
Yeah.
You're describing a lot of people who just crave the carbs and the sugar and all the crap to just keep them going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a cycle, isn't it?
Yeah. So you obviously, like you say, you started to go through this in your kind of early to mid 40s, and then kind of like you say, you sort of thought, well, I'm going through this, and I want to then help other people go through, help them manage them through this process and that time in their life as well.
Yeah.
And then in terms of explain to us what like a Meno strength coach is, and
so there's a lady called Jenny Burrell from Burrell Education, and she's got 2 courses that are specifically about menopause. So one is the 3rd age post to perimenopause, and that's more about diet, lifestyle, teaching you about the hormones, that kind of thing, and what's happening in the body, so you understand on a certain level, staying in your lane, of course. I'm not, not an endocrinologist or a doctor or anything like that, but just having a better understanding of what's happening in a woman's body and what lifestyle factors can help. And then the Meno strength is specifically about what changes are happening in a woman's body, why strength training is so important, what we know about osteoporosis, about sarcopenia, about metabolism, that kind of thing. So it's just teaching a bit more about that. I would say it's not really anything that we don't already know. It's just attaching it to why it's so important. I didn't learn any new moves or any new magical things that are specifically, I don't think there is specifically anything magical or different that would work that's not in the strength training arena. But obviously things like the hormones and things, switching maybe from like really high intensity HIIT stuff that will raise the cortisol too much. Maybe we need to start mixing in a bit more restorative movement and be more structured with your strength training and that kind of thing, so.
But that's interesting because you sort of say the way you sort of said that. I don't know, you sort of said it doesn't really teach you anything we don't already know, but it's interesting because there's that assumed knowledge, isn't it? But the kind of people that you are tapping into and talking to and wanting to help don't know any of this stuff, do they?
That's right. Yeah,
so it's actually really good that even just a way that you can possibly explain the benefits of strength training to someone specifically going through menopause, and why it is. So maybe it would be helpful for you just to kind of assume that we don't know anything, and that you're talking to like the person listening to this who maybe currently doesn't strength train. I mean, what if you had to give, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 benefits or reasons why maybe a woman in their mid 40s into their 50s, I mean, why it would be a good idea for them to do some kind of strength training. What would you say?
So I mean, it does feel like saying it feels like it's so obvious because we're all in this business, aren't we? But you forget sometimes that people that people, you know, aren't in this, so they do need to understand, so that they understand the benefits of it. So the biggest one is bone density for me, I think, which is super, super important. So strength training really lowers the risk of losing your bone density. And even if you haven't strength trained your whole life, you can start. It doesn't matter. You can start and you can really improve that. So low bone density can lead to things like osteoporosis and things like that. And even that is a very technical thing to somebody that's not in the industry. So what that actually means in real life terms is, you know, like we start to say when someone's a little bit older, we, instead of saying someone fell over, we call it a fall, don't we? Right. So that's really what we're talking about when we're thinking about the risk of osteoporosis, is the bones being more brittle and not really surviving a fall as well as you would in your 20s, right? So it's that kind of the strength and structure of your bones. So that's what's really important. So if you think about, you know, your old auntie or your granny, they fell over and they break their wrist, but it was just a little sort of trip, but it's a really quite severe injury from that. That's what we're trying to reduce the risk of. So that's for me, that's a huge one. If women feel unhappy and uncomfortable with the changes in their body, increasing muscle mass can help them with, you know, with fat loss. So that's the second one, I think, is what is most important to a lot of women. For me, it's you know, if we look at the mental health side of things with menopause, for me, one of the biggest reasons is the amount of confidence that you can feel when you do something that you never imagined that you could do. And lifting weights for women, honestly, I can't tell you, you see it all the time. I know you see it all the time. But when you walk into either a PT session or a class or whatever, and you get that first lift that you thought you would never get, that it's so powerful. It's so, so powerful, and it's amazing. And that, I think that's one of the people probably don't talk about that in the science and everything, but for me, that's one of the biggest things is, you know,
yeah, that's huge, isn't it? And I think what's so important is, like, we talk about women. I mean, I'm going back to when I was a kid, and I would have been like, my mum probably would have been in her maybe 40s, or, you know, late 30s, 40s, and women used to, and I know it's still the most popular leisure activity in the country, because we've talked about this a few times. Women used to go, and I'm generalizing, women used to, but swimming, you know what I mean? Swimming was a big thing that people used to do, and they used to do like aquarobics and swimming, and it's great. It's a good thing to do for your heart, and you know, for your respiratory system and things like that. But because swimming is not, it's not even non-weight bearing. It's literally like you've got zero. You're not even, you know.
That's why we do it, because it's not.
Because you've got zero there. So it's so important. But that, what, you know, I think you remember, like, you know, in the 80s and stuff, it used to just be like you used to go to aquarobics and stuff. But I think that, and that was before women largely used to do strength training outside of, you know, real niche kind of groups, you know. So I think that this, you know, strength training is I mean, it like you say, for us it's common everywhere, we see it everywhere we look, but it is so important now for, and I think times are, again, are we in an echo chamber or not? But it seems like the tide is turning, and times are changing, and people are more open to it. Do you find that yourself?
Yeah, I really feel like, and again, I don't know if it's because we are just looking and we're seeing it more, or, you know, do we need to like pop our heads up above it sometimes? I don't know, but it does feel like there's a shift, you know. Yeah, just another one that I think is a super important one to point out is our like brain health. You know, strength training is really good for, you know, women are more likely to have, like, you know, lose function with their brain as they age, and strength training, you know, I keep trying, you might know, you two, actually, I saw once a study, and I cannot remember where I saw it, that grip strength has a direct correlation with reducing the risk of Alzheimer's.
Okay, I know about it in terms of, you know, longevity and lifespan, but I've not heard about it specifically to do with Alzheimer's. But
yeah, no, I don't like to say it out loud too much, because you know, when you just go, did I actually read that? But I'm sure I did. But yeah, so that's
yeah.
another reason to,
Well, yeah, I mean, they've really linked obviously strength training to you know, cognitive decline and Alzheimer's and stuff now as a modality of training, because it's there,
yeah,
like you say, a lot of the time you get articles in the you know, mainstream newspapers saying about how important strength training is, and it is for women and things as well, which is great. And is there, I want to touch as well now on, and I'm directing you a little bit, I'm sorry,
yeah,
but
no, you're
like
fine. Please
in
do,
terms
yeah.
of nutrition as well, like
Mm.
do I know that as all of us, male and female, get older, actually increasing the amount of protein that we eat is actually kind of more important, because we become less able to kind of you know, process the protein and use it. So actually we need to actually keep eating more protein as we get older. But is there anything specific that you kind of know from a menopause kind of perspective, and for women, I mean, what general recommendations are there for, say, a woman in their 40s 50s plus, in
Yeah.
terms of nutrition and things?
So if you were, I mean, yeah, if we're talking general, the general kind of advice is to try to like hit 30 to 40 grams with each meal, which feels like a lot when you're not, you know, when you're not hitting those. It does depend on a person's size, what a person's goals are, etc., etc. So you would want to be a little bit more specific.
Hmm.
For the majority of people who aren't hitting anywhere near those goals, just trying to think about hitting 20 to 30 as a starting point in each meal is a really great place to start. And again, it's this whole thing of trying not to tell people what the golden goose is
Hmm.
of each thing, because that can look scary. If
Hmm.
somebody that's having, let's say they're having like, I'm just going to make this up now, special K for breakfast, you know, a cheese sandwich and you know, spaghetti bolognese or something, I don't know, you know,
Hmm.
are they going to have that anywhere near that in their diet? Probably not. And they'll go, how am I going to do that? So just saying, try and find an extra 10 grams in each meal if you can, to start with. Once you've got that nailed down, let's try and increase that a little bit more. But you know, as a general rule, 20 to 30 grams
Per meal.
per
Yeah.
meal is.
Do you get people to fight? Because what I tend to do if someone asks me about this is just say, right, well, where are you at now? And they don't
100%.
know.
That's, yeah.
They've got
That's
no
why I
idea. And I'm
hesitate
like,
to
right.
say, yeah. That's what, you know, steps, water, exercise, protein, fiber, all of it. If you say to somebody that's nowhere near it, try and get this, they'll go, "Phew, it
Yeah.
just feels like too much." So always saying to somebody, okay, so let me see what you're doing now. And then with that, go, okay, let's turn the taps up on this one. You know, which one feels the easiest to sort out? Let's do that one first. And
Yeah,
before
so
you
if
know it,
someone's I suppose doing, say, 3,000 steps a day, and then you say, oh, you've got to do over
10,000.
10, but then if
Yeah.
you say, if we can just try and get you to 5,000, you know what I mean, it's probably add 2,000 to what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
It kind of, like you say, because those jumps are just so big, aren't they, you know, for
Yeah.
if someone's starting from nowhere.
And
How
psychologically as well, sorry, Pete,
No, sorry.
psychologically, if you give somebody a small target and they achieve that, that actually psychologically and brain chemistry has a massive impact on them wanting to continue to do it. Is huge.
I think
that
when we
takes you
had
back.
Dr. Paul Bedford on, Pete, sorry, Dr. Paul Bedford, the retention guru, and he talks a lot about self-efficacy and actually believing that you can do something. So, and he
Yeah,
talks about people actually adopting an exercise habit for life, and
yeah,
specifically in terms of retention for gyms and health clubs and things. You have to encourage people to actually believe that, you know, I can do this, and they
yeah,
have that, like you say, that feeling of success, and
yeah.
then that you can only really build on that feeling of success. Sorry, Pete, I jumped in. Do you want to say what
No,
you're
no,
going
I
to
was
say?
going to say that takes us back to the running and having the person in front and not being the person at the back, and
Yeah.
them little goals. If you can say, well, I can do that in the running, but I can do that in my diet, I can do that in life, basically.
Mm,
I was going to ask the question about, because obviously during menopause as well, people tend to put weight on, don't they? And they can't figure out why. They don't do anything differently, whether
mm,
they're training or not. It doesn't matter. They
mm,
just end up, you know, putting a few pounds or stone on even.
Mm.
How do you broach the subject of, so we've spoke about bone density, muscle mass, bones and muscle weigh things, weigh stuff, weigh kilograms, right?
Yeah.
So how do you broach the subject of the scales with
Mm.
people, like, you know, because people would be like, well, I put weight on, and it's like, yeah, but you're changing your body composition.
Yeah.
But you've
Yeah.
put bone weight on, and that doesn't show up like round here. You know.
Yeah. It's a really tricky one. And if I'm honest, it's one that I've really struggled with personally over the years. So my professional approach to it has, for a long time, sat in the background until I did this nutrition course, and I felt like I had the qualification to talk about this, right? So this is why we use the term fat loss instead of weight loss, because I'm trying to get people to understand that what it says when you stand on the scales in terms of pounds, kilos, whatever you weigh in, it's so wildly fluctuating throughout the week, and we are so conditioned to take too much from that number, right? We're really conditioned with things like slimming clubs and things like that. Woo, you've lost a pound. Woo, you've put on a pound. You know, so many women that I work with are conditioned to be affected by that number. So there's a lot of deep work trying to unpack and unravel all of that. So we talk about fat percentage and muscle percentage and things like that, over and above actual pounds and stuff like that. And I've got scales, and let's be really honest, these scales aren't really accurate. They can't read body fat and muscles like a sort of a body scan and things like that. However, what they do is they give us a where you at now and is that moving. So I would focus more on that with people,
Yeah.
and get them to think more about, is your muscle mass increasing? Is your fat percentage moving down? Never mind, you know, let's not focus too much on that number.
Because I think as well, especially probably for women and for men, but clothes as well is such a big thing as well, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
can, if you're you know if you're generally speaking, if your waist is getting a bit smaller,
Yeah.
even if you're putting muscle on maybe your thighs and you're building your strength, but
Yeah.
for most people, they've got kind of, when clothes fit a bit nicer on you, don't you? You know what I mean? And they kind of feel a bit looser in the better areas and a bit tighter. Yeah, go on, Pete. You're laughing. What are you gonna say?
There's a lady who I know who's, I think she's in her mid-50s now. And she had to she stopped going to the gym because she was getting too big.
Mm.
She was there's a gym, Cali Unity or something it's called around here, and they do calisthenics training and stuff like that. But she's like, she must be some sort of hyper responder. Like, as soon as she starts doing anything, she said her back just got massive and none of her clothes fit anymore. So she stopped. And I was like, do you know how many people would be really jealous of that?
Yeah, that's it. This is it.
Yeah.
So also having the discussion with women as well, that often at the beginning of these changes in your body, it's not always putting on weight, it's a redistribution of where your fat is stored, because in menopause the fat stores tend to go more around here because it's a protective, it's protecting these these organs that are inside here. But also, and again, we probably all know this on here, but saying it to people that don't know, when estrogen is like lowering, it's such a protective hormone. It's got so many functions in the body. So anywhere that your body can hold on to it, it's going to hold on to it. And actually, one place it is stored is in our fat cells. So around here might be just the last little dregs of estrogen in your body, and your body wants to hold on to it. Body wants to hold on to it. So it's like, often I don't want to say to people, and I don't want to, diminish their feelings about their body, but I do try to encourage people to, let's put fat loss, if you want it as a goal, a little bit lower down on the priority list. Let's think about your brain health, your heart health, your bones, your confidence, improving your mental health, improving your well-being. Yes, we can have that as a goal, and that's absolutely fine. But having these other things and continuously talking about them and the importance of them over and above, people will then do the things they need to do, and that might just be a side sort of positive consequence of it.
You need a pyramid like what James has got.
Yeah, what's that? What's
No,
that?
don't worry. We're talking about it the other way. The other week.
No. It goes with that though. James's pyramid was like, people who want to get healthy and all that, just join a gym and do HIIT training or whatever. But it's like, no. You need to focus on giving up smoke and not drinking as much and getting some sleep first.
Yes.
That's the main bit. The joining the gym bit is the very top. So you're the same thing. The fat loss bit is the last bit.
Yeah.
The rest of it is what causes that to happen, right? So yeah.
This is another thing I get asked a lot. Which supplements do I take? And I say, first of all, tell me how much water are you drinking? How much are you walking? How much exercise? Forget about that for the moment. Because you're jumping
to the tip of the pyramid,
on top of your bread. It's not, let's sort the bread out first. Do you know what I mean? Let's do the basics first, Yeah,
it's so true. And like you say, I think if you do, you're addressing that. We spoke about this before as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a goal.
Yeah.
The goal is kind of, you sort of set the goal and then it's there. And then you've got to kind of do the processes every day that's going to move you to the goal. But the goal is kind of going to happen if you do all the processes, isn't it? So like you say, it's the sleep, it's the nutrition, it's the steps, it's the stress management, it's the, eventually, strength training, it's all of that stuff. And then that goal that's there. But if you're constantly, like you say, if you're jumping on the scales every week and measuring your body fat, and especially like you say, if you're jumping towards like supplementation and all the rest of it, you're kind of what they call it, like, majoring in the minors. You know what I mean? You've got to get you've got to get the majors right first.
Yeah.
I started training properly like when 10, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. So I was in finance. I was a trader for an energy firm.
Right.
So I was fat and out of shape. I wasn't like huge, but I was fat and out of shape and didn't go down the gym or anything. And I was a bit wobbly and all that. I started taking supplements this year.
Right. Yeah.
I did all that stuff first, and now like that's the top of the pyramid. And I'm like, because people are on about supplements and that, and I was like, do I need any, or do I just do all the other stuff? I don't want to have to rely on that. I want to make it happen first.
Yes. Yeah.
Now it's like the supplement thing has come in because with that, I think like for breakfast, I have collagen in my coffee now. That's 12 grams of protein done. I'm like, I don't need to worry much more about that. I'll have some eggs in that, and then I'm sorted. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I've only just realized that. It took me 12 or 13 years to start to even think about supplements. Because we did a podcast with Claire Booth.
Yep.
Beginning of this year, and she asked us what supplements we were on, and I was like, I don't think I take any.
Yeah. You take your creatine now, don't you?
I do, yeah. I take also. I've got loads.
So Mel, can I ask about the my body fits?
Yes.
Kind of the thinking behind that and the process behind that and the meaning behind that, because I think that's that. I've not heard you explain it before, but I kind of be interested to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, so this really feeds into what I was saying earlier about, for a long time, not talking about fat loss and weight loss with people. So for a little while, I had not such a great relationship with food. Can I say a little swear word?
Yeah. Say whatever you like.
I went down the wellness wanker route. I became a bit of a wellness wanker, right?
Yeah.
And was a bit evangelical about food. And I did it because what probably now I realise it was perimenopause. But I was getting all sorts of things going wrong here, there, and everywhere. Went to see a nutrition somebody who said, cut out this, 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 cut out this. And it was insane. It was absolutely insane what they told me to do. And I did it because I am a doozer, right? I'm like, okay, that's going to fix me. Fantastic. And I'm not going to lie to you. It did. It fixed every little ailment I had. I felt amazing. The weight dropped off of me. I felt fantastic. I had amazing energy. However, I developed a fear of all the food that she had told me to cut out. I used to dive deep into articles and then, and suddenly it was going to somebody's wedding that I said, I'm just going to have a glass of champagne. I mean, it's like, it's, you know, it's a family member's wedding. And I drank that champagne and it was like heroin for me. And then I could not stop eating everything that I'd cut out. It was insane, but I did it secretly. I was like still being evangelical, but you know, secretly hoovering M&Ms up from the side of my car. You know, like, you know, doing this. But with every scoop of sugary food that I ate, in my mind, there was this narrative, you're going to give yourself cancer. You're going to give yourself cancer. It was so bad. I do have a little bit of an obsessive brain. So, you know, I frightened myself so much, borderline toes in like orthorexia, right?
I was going to say it's an eating disorder, isn't
It was,
it? Basically, that you were developing. Yeah.
I never got it diagnosed, but it was, I know what that is. And it was, you know, I used to go to my friend's house. The one that stands out for me, and I cringe just saying this, I cringe. It was a hen weekend, and my friend's got a beautiful house in Danbury. She had everybody over. They got Chinese food and cocktails, and I turned up with a plastic box of the food that I was allowed to eat.
You wanker.
I know. And I'm not even lying to you. I was kind of going, oh my God, you know, not only was I evangelical about food, I was snooty and judgmental about what everyone else ate. So then one day I was hoovering up some M&Ms in the car door, and Jasmine was really young. And she was in the back of the car. I was dropping her off somewhere to a club or to school or something like that. She leaned in to give me a kiss and she went, "You been eating peanut M&Ms?" And I just, and I cringed because I thought, oh my God, my 5-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever, however old she was, daughter has just caught me out eating M&Ms. And then I realised that this is really bad, actually. I need to sort this out now. So I started to delve into how can I unpack this? How can I fix this? How can I repair my relationship with food? And it took years. It took, you know, doing it on my own. It took 2 to 3 years of really experimenting with being able to, I mean, I didn't even eat fruit because high sugar, blah, blah, blah. And then it got to kind of the lockdown sort of time. And then I just went, do you know what? I need to eat everything again. I need to eat everything. So I started to just eat bread again, eat fruit, eat sweets, eat chocolate, and I put on about 30 pounds. But I had to be okay with that. I had to accept it. I had to be all right with it. And I had to put my body on show still as a personal trainer just to fix what was going on for me, right? So the whole thing with My Body Fits came about because the industry was telling me that you can't be a personal trainer. You are not the right shape. How can you? And I just kind of like had this feeling that, you know, it's assumed that we should be ripped, skinny. But I was as good a coach when I was 30 pounds heavier as I was when I was a size 8 and tiny. You know, I was as good as coach. Nothing changed. It's just that
you're probably a much better coach because, like you say, when you're at that stage where you had this kind of problem where you were like overly judgmental of everyone and snooty and like you say, like evangelical and you know, holier than thou and all that. Yeah, you're probably a much better coach when you dealt with all of those issues yourself, hadn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it has really helped me to have the conversations with people around like, what are your deep beliefs about food? What are your deep beliefs about your size, about what you look like, you know, that kind of thing. And to really, like I said, really to set aside. So for the longest time, I wouldn't even talk about fat loss, weight loss, because it was too triggering for me. It was too triggering for me to have those conversations. So I used to, if I took a new client on, I would say, before I take you on, you need to understand, I don't do food plans. I won't talk about diets. You can do your diet outside of our work together, but I'm here to get you stronger, to make you move better, to make you feel more confident. Is that okay? Yes or no? That's the sort of, you know, thing that that I used to do. And then I had one client who's still a client of mine now, one day say to me, I really want to lose weight, but I feel like I can't talk to you about it. And I just went, oh my goodness, that's okay. So now I need to work through that. I need to be okay with having these conversations with people again, because who am I to say that you shouldn't want to lose weight? You know, so then I did that work as well. I'm constantly working on myself.
It's bonkers though, isn't it? Because being a coach, this is what you learn, isn't it? Because you're like, you go, Dan John talks about it all the time. He's like, you're here, then you go to here, and this is the thing. And then that's it. And then, oh no, but now this is the thing. And then now, and then you realize it's all the thing. And like you say, everyone's different.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean,
that's what led me to do the nutrition coaching, because I feel like, you know, there's far too many personal trainers, whatever they call themselves, that spout a lot of stuff about nutrition without being qualified. And I thought, if I'm going to start talking about it again, if I'm going to start assisting my clients do this, I need to have the relevant qualifications to do that. So
it's funny because nutrition for me comes up like massively because I used to live with someone who had an eating disorder, who was bulimic.
Right.
It was a she, and she went to the gym and she looked great, absolutely amazing, but body dysmorphia, just like I'm fat and I need to lose weight, even though putting muscle on and looking really, really good, you know, borderline too muscly, if I'm honest, but you know, but not for, you know, that's just me saying that because, like, I don't know, somebody, a female with more muscle might look too muscly. I'm not saying that's a thing or not, but that's
it's an opinion, isn't it?
That's how a lot of people might look at it.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. However, this person still thought they were fat and out of shape and needed to sort it out. And I'm just like, that is not a food problem. That is not a gym problem. That is that's a mental problem, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
I think that's why doing anything with nutrition is really hard, because you're getting into someone's mental state, which is
I don't actually think that working with somebody, this is what I've learned as well through doing this course. I don't think when you have conversations with people about nutrition, it's about nutrition. No. I think it's about their mindset, their beliefs, what happened when they were younger, what were they taught about food, who influenced them, who made them feel a certain way, you know, what are the influences coming into their life. What are their beliefs that they've set up about themselves if they are that shape or that shape, you know?
This is fascinating because how quickly, and I don't know whether this is something to do with your, I don't know you, so I don't know whether it's to do with your childhood, but how quickly did this person who you went to about your nutrition change your beliefs and values and everything? Yeah. Was that within a year or something? Within?
You mean the one that told me to cut everything out?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm like, if I've gone to somebody, because I was so sick and so many horrible things happening, I went to her and I believed everything she said.
So that changed.
And then overnight, you just changed.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight, I changed everything.
Wow.
And the withdrawal from cutting everything out, I mean, it is insane. I've got this kind of wild sort of flu from from cutting all of that food out of my diet. But yeah, I was like, this is it. This is great. I feel fantastic, you know.
But we're going to have to speak again, Mel. We really are.
Yeah.
We've been going for just over an hour now. We're going
to really? Have we?
Yeah, no, but it was so. See, I mean, that's what I said. Once we just start talking, we just keep chatting. But no, that would honestly, we'll definitely have you back on and talk more. Maybe more down because I know that the level 4 nutrition stuff is fairly recent, isn't it? It's in the last 3 to 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, so I started doing it last year and I just qualified in the summer, so it's still really new.
Yeah, so maybe we'll catch up with you again, maybe 6 months down the line. Do you know what I mean? And when you've been doing this, working with people more, and we can talk about this, because it is a subject that you can talk, especially once you get into, like you say, kind of values, beliefs, habits, all kind of stuff around eating and around food and the culture and the all of what food means to us and the meanings we associate to it is huge. But no, we definitely will. So Mel, if people do want to find out more about you, follow you, what is the best? I mean, where do you spend most of your time? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram?
I hang out mostly on Instagram. Yeah, that's where I am most of the time. I do have a YouTube channel as well, but it's, mostly I'm on Instagram. That's where
So
you can
probably
find.
the first port of call is to go to at my dot body fits. Yeah,
That's
at
it.
my body fit, at my body dot at my dot body fits.
That's the one.
But that's probably the best place for people to maybe get introduced to you and what you
Yeah.
do and
Yeah.
your philosophy and stuff like that. No, that's been so really good talking to you. And
Oh,
like
amazing.
I say, we could definitely we could talk again for another hour, I'm
I
sure.
can
So
talk the hind legs off a donkey. I can. It's one of those things when you ask me anything about what I love and passionate about, I won't stop. So yeah, definitely.
excellent. Thank you so much. That was good,
Thank
wasn't
you
it,
for
Pete?
having
Another good
me.
one.
It was great. Yeah, it's just whenever you say someone from Chelmsford's coming on, I'm like, right, okay, I'll just be quiet then.
No, but you weren't. It was
You
good. It was good.
too.
Yeah, no, it was great. So thank you everybody for watching or listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially Apple Podcasts. Leave a review on there. You can go on Spotify, give us 5 stars on there. And if you don't follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube, go and do that, please. We have got a number of guests coming up. I don't know who I've got booked in for next week, but we're going to be rolling through till Christmas and the New Year with loads of great guests. This was episode 271. Thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Peter Lant.
You're welcome.
And we will see you next week for episode 272. Until then, bye-bye.